Welcome to our YouTube channel, Digital Somerset. My name's Shane Griffiths, and I'm joined with my buddy Jeremy Hyams. And welcome to the next episode of our podcast, where we talk to people in various different positions in and around the country, various different jobs and titles and things, and learn a little bit about what they do and what insights they can bring. So today we're joined by our good friend Maddie Taylor from What 3 Words. Hi, Maddie.
Hi guys, how you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
It's
great
awesome.
to have you back.
It's awesome to
have you
back again. And we shouldn't, let's just be honest with each other, right? This is the second time we've done this now. Let's not hide. So we may have messed up.
Hands up! I've got my laptop full on charge now with the correct lead.
Brilliant. And I'm actually now pressing record, so we're winning already.
Yeah, we're the two that messed up, right?
Practice does make perfect, and we really appreciate the fact that you're a good sport, and you're willing to kind of do this again because.
Oh no, that's fine. We've had our fair share of Zoom recording learning experiences over the last year. I think everyone's just trying to work it out, right?
I know, I totally agree. I think everyone is trying to figure this stuff out, and and actually, I think up until COVID, organizing a meeting or a Zoom call was just kind of like this extra thing, right? Not really many people gave it much consideration, but now all of a sudden it's like everyone's gravitated towards this, and now production quality or just consistency, and and now when you have a Zoom call and it's really bumpy and the quality is not very good, it's like it's a big deal now, right? Because we have to endure it for a lot longer than what we usually have to do.
Absolutely.
And there isn't really any time for. Now we're a year into it, right? We should all know better, whether we're into technology, graphics, or just a simple service industry, right? It's kind of been a year to play around with it. Yeah. So there isn't really any excuses. For some simple, you don't have to have all the gear and no idea like me, but you can have just some simple things about the formatting of where your camera is plugged into the Ethernet and simple stuff like that. But
plants in the background, that's my top tip.
Absolutely. I think that's like, if you're looking for that promotion, you need to there's a certain level of plant game that you need to be at. You need to have a good, strong plant game.
I've gone less on the plants and more on the throne of the cushions.
You've got enough cushions there. Are you sure you're comfortable, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Are you all right?
I've got my mint and licorice tea.
Oh, that's fantastic.
My water. I'm ready. I'm ready for my Friday afternoon.
I just want to make sure you are comfortable now.
So look, the last time we spoke, something else has changed, right? Like besides us messing it all up, we were Digital Taunton, and now today, after the relaunch, we're now Digital Somerset. And if Shane and I have got our way, it'll be Digital UK and Digital Europe by the end of the year.
We'll be there. We'll get there.
Well,
step by step.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but before we get into, because we got lots of things we want to, reconnect with you, Maddie. Because honestly, it was so exciting when you were speaking last time when we did that old-fashioned thing, like a proper event with people back in the olden days.
Oh, those were the days.
But look, I mean, there's so many exciting things happening within sort of Somerset itself. And first of all, kind of a big shout out to our buddies and our friends at Company, who obviously have been closed but over this period. But certainly were a lifeline to us when they were up and running, and really helped facilitate fantastic shows. So as you guys probably know, there are workspace and meeting rooms. And they're on Bridge Street in Taunton. And the great news is they're opening, fingers crossed, COVID everything, 17th of May. And the team are there, ready, really looking forward to sort of meeting you guys. I mean, they've got very cool equipment there, haven't they? I mean, such a cool setup.
Yeah,
loads of desks. Yeah.
And John and the team, they've been a massive supporter of Digital Taunton and now Digital Somerset. So we're really grateful that they're willing to sort of sponsor this episode, and we're more than happy to help them however way we can to make sure that when they do open, that people do get back in there and let's recreate that culture and that energy that there used to be before COVID, and let's get everything back on track. So yeah, thanks to John and the team.
Definitely. And if you want to get in touch with them, it's hello@companyspaces.com.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. So Maddie, what have you been up to then? How has the pandemic and COVID treated you?
I'd say personally, it's actually not been too bad. I'm lucky in that I work for a technology company, and we are already sort of communicating and used to doing things digitally. So already all of our interaction is on Slack, and we're working in Google Docs and Google Drive. So I think the transition to work from home was a lot easier for us than for friends I've had who work in a much more like office or kind of paper-based environment where they can't get hold of their files and things like that. We're very used to having people from our company kind of bouncing around all over the world, and we've got colleagues in Mongolia and South Africa and the US. So we're kind of used to doing this. I mean, the hard thing has been the social side and actually just not seeing each other face to face, because some idea sessions and conversations are just better in person. But I'd say we've sort of been bearing up pretty well considering everything that's been going on in the world this year.
I love the way you've described your colleagues just bouncing around all over the world. Yeah.
So for those that don't know, and those that perhaps didn't tune in for in the last Digital Taunton event, that you really, it was great that you were able to come down from London and speak to our audience last year. Was it last year? The year before? Oh my God, yeah.
I think it was the year before, yeah. Last year's sort of a write-off.
November 2019, I guess it was. It was, yeah, that's right. We had cupcakes that night, if I remember rightly. And it was a really good
what
night.
A memory. Those cupcakes, you obviously...
they were
it was either the cupcakes or the talkers.
Honestly, I've got cupcakes on my mind all the time at the moment. It's literally what I live for. Yeah, hence the reason why I recently had to get a treadmill. But Maddie, for those who don't know, what is What 3 Words?
Sure. So What 3 Words is a location technology, and it's designed to make it really easy for anybody to talk about a specific location anywhere in the world. So the way we've done that is we've taken the entire world and divided it up into 3-meter squares. And then we've given every one of those squares a unique combination of 3 words. So you could say table, lamp, spoon, and that refers to a precise 3-meter square somewhere in the world, and it can only ever refer to that square. So the idea is that it makes it very easy to kind of remember and communicate locations that are very exact, much more precise than, say, a street address, which might communicate an entire building. With a What 3 Words address, it's a precise 3-meter square, so it might be a front door or a parking space or something much more exact, basically.
Could be a good example, maybe an oil tank, right? I mean, it's a random one, but you get oil tanks in fields into some of the rural houses. I've got one, and it's kind of like, well, if they've got that, then they can go straight, find exactly where it is.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing's like a specific part of your property. We've had sort of people getting like rolls of turf delivered for their garden. And, there's no point bringing all of this rolled up grass to the front door. You want the van to go around the back and stop at your garden gate. So rather than giving your house address, you give the What 3 Words address for your back gate. The van rocks up and your grass can all sort of be unloaded in the right place. Whereas without, you'd probably have to say, sorry, mate, can you go around the block and park at the back? And it's just that little extra amount of time that will make those deliveries a lot more inefficient. So every time you can give a precise location, it makes your life easier, and it helps kind of the world operate a bit more efficiently.
So when you say the world, it's in more than one language?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just this week launched our 48th language.
Oh wow!
I couldn't even tell you 48 languages.
I don't know 48 languages.
I've learned a lot of new languages at What 3 Words. Not to speak them, but at least I've heard of them. And our latest launch was Amharic, which is a language spoken in Ethiopia. And it's got a beautiful script, really beautiful written script. And when you see it in an app, there's this beautiful kind of clash between the digital world and then this beautiful kind of like flowing script, and it's just really, really cool to see. We've actually already put it on a t-shirt because it's just beautiful.
It's super cool. Amazing. I'll have to find that out, and we'll have to link that up and share it.
I'll have to show you guys.
So this is an organization. This is like a tech startup. How long has the startup been going for now? Is it?
Oh, am I going to get this right? I think we just had our it's either 7 or 8 years. Maybe it's 8. I'm going to go with 8 years.
So it's still
But how cool is that, right?
Relatively early stage.
It still feels
Yeah.
like a startup, right? But is it a startup? I don't know. But you kind of, the way you talk about the organization, the way I've heard you talk about it, and the way everyone is in the kind of this kind of very empowered way, it feels like a startup, yeah?
Yeah, I think we're still in that startup place. We're about 150 people now, I think. When I joined, we were 23 or something like that. So there's been quite rapid growth in the 4 years that I've been there. And now we're still in that, I guess, in that startup place, but we're really at a stage where we've grown a lot, expanded our team, and we are having to think a bit more like a grow-up company, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. We're not in the place where we can all sit in one room and tap each other on the shoulder. We have to kind of have more processes and more efficient ways of communicating.
So, so I've got what 3 words on my phone. Really smart, really cool. But I don't pay for that app, right? It's on my phone. I don't remember any annoying adverts being on there either. So how are you, if you don't mind me asking, how are you actually making any money? If you got, all these people all over the globe, there's got to be where's the commercial side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and it's one that's not immediately obvious, like you said, from the consumer point of view. So the app is free to use, and yet, like you said, it doesn't have any ads or kind of pay-in add-ons or anything like that. So that's completely free. And you can also use the system for free at what3words.com. But where we make our money is by charging businesses who have a business use. So say they're a delivery company who wants to deliver more efficiently, they're going to save time and money by using what3words. So they will pay us when they use our system. Or for example, car companies who want to build the system into their navigation of the cars. So that's an added benefit for their customers to be able to type in or speak 3 words to their car to input a very precise destination. So we make money by basically licensing the technology to bigger companies. We do have licenses for small companies who can use it for free up to a certain amount. So we don't charge every business, but the larger businesses with kind of a big benefit to be felt from what3words. That's how we generate our revenue.
So over the last year with the pandemic, and I can only speak from experience in my house, which we just happen to have, I'm pretty sure, half of Amazon's warehouse boxes in our house. Right?
I've got the other half.
With the amount of deliveries have gone on, have you seen an increase in sales from that? Is that something?
Yeah,
you would have
absolutely. We've had a lot more interest in the kind of e-commerce and logistics space because, like you said, people are stuck at home. They need to get stuff delivered. Also things like supermarket deliveries, pharmacy deliveries, all of those things that you might normally go out and do during a lockdown, you don't want to, so you get stuff delivered to you. And so that the volume in general has increased, but we've also seen a lot of smaller businesses really having to pivot to a delivery model just to survive. A nice example was there's a farm in Scotland called Mossgiel Farm, and that's a dairy farm that normally would just supply all of its milk to a local cafes and hospitality businesses. But with those closed, they've realized they've got all of this milk coming out their cows. They need to deliver it to customers, but they're in rural Scotland. They need to milk cows all day, so they have to make these deliveries at night, and they're driving around rural Scotland trying to find these customers' homes. And for businesses like that, getting a what3words address and knowing that they can pull up to the spot, drop off the milk and get going again is just so useful. So we've seen lots of examples like that where a company is having to do home delivery for the very first time, and it's not something they've done before. And this is just a really great shortcut for them. So it's been really nice to be able to help out the smaller business side this year.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and I love the idea of this business. I think it's potentially has the ability to be really disruptive, and I guess one thing you didn't touch on, which I remember you talking about last time, was about the fact that what you're basically proposing is more of a universal postcode system, right? That actually there's places in developing countries that don't have the kind of postal infrastructure that we have in the developed world, if you like, and so what3words is a really viable solution for rural communities where there's a lot of land, or in countries where there isn't the infrastructure in place currently. I mean, there's so much potential, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think here in the UK we do have a street addressing system. that works for us for some things, and we can add what three words to it. But if you look in the Absolutely, yeah. I think there's so many places in the world that are developing really quickly. And in a way, in those places, rather than bring in a traditional street addressing system, which can take years and years and years to implement, and for governments to sort of get going and go around and address every single building, what three words is already ready to go. It's already addressed the entire world. So it really is a case of just adopting a system that is already in place. So it means that countries can pick that up and go with it much faster and with less cost. I think places that are exciting for us are places like India, parts of Africa, all sorts of places where the modern world is coming really quickly. You know, there's delivery services taking off, and new technologies and automotive navigation, things like that. There's a lot of potential for things to happen a lot faster with this system, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you see that whole talk about the postcode disruption where there aren't any postcodes in the developing countries? What about the countries that are developed, that do have postcodes? Obviously, you've given great examples of how they're used, but do the guys at What Three Words see that as a challenge to potentially, one day disrupt the postcode? So, postcode service in countries with postcodes, right? Or is that not a thing?
I think generally we recommend that they can exist in harmony with each other. People's addresses and postcodes are useful for identifying their home, delivering post, for talking about a specific area. And people's identity to some extent is linked up with their postcodes. If you talk about different boroughs of London, whether you're in W1 or E5, it says something about where you are. And I think we wouldn't want to challenge that or for that to go away. But what we're adding is an extra tool for when you need that specificity. When you need to talk about something that is accurate and reliable. Because the thing with addresses is they're part of databases and they need to be updated. When a house is divided in two, it becomes two addresses that has to be updated on a database. And you have to wait to be allocated a postcode if you move into a new build flat, for example. So there's times when addresses are great, but there's also a lot of times when What Three Words can just sort of jump the gun and offer you something that is more useful and more in tune with how we live these days.
I think it's really interesting, and do you feel like there's been any significant growth with the product over the pandemic? Like a lot of tech businesses, a lot of e-commerce businesses have all experienced growth. Has What Three Words seen something similar, or?
Yeah, definitely. We've continued to pick up new partners and to look in different directions. I think we've pivoted our offering as well. We took some of the focus away from car companies temporarily while cars weren't being made, for example. And now we're back looking at automotive navigation a lot now, but we turned our focus to delivery businesses, but also we've been doing a lot of work with emergency services this year. So we've been working with each emergency service in the UK to help to sort of show them the benefits of the community, get their call centres trained up, and help them tell their local population about What Three Words. And I think we're at about 85% of the UK's emergency services actively using What Three Words now. So that means you can call 999 when you're standing in the middle of a field, and somebody's feeling unwell, or you've seen a fire, a car on fire in a parking lot somewhere that you can't describe. You can call up and say, I'm at the What Three Words address, table, lamp, spoon. And they know exactly where you are. They type it into their system and they can pinpoint you. And it's also really easy for them to pass that location between services. So if the police get the first call, but they realize they actually need a fire engine, they can pass that to the fire service and they will all know where they're going. Because you can imagine they get called out to some quite difficult places sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And to be really clear about this isn't some sort of commercial opportunity for you guys, is it? This is kind of and I'm getting the right words because my dyslexia. So it's almost philanthropic. There's another. I won't bother saying that word again. But this is a community-driven project, right? This is to help communities.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I said there's always a bit of both. You know, when you're a startup, you can't lose sight of the fact that you have to make money, you have to deliver a return on people's investment in your company. But when it comes to the emergency services, it is really important to us that people are being found. And we've spoken to so many call handlers and first responders who are really grateful for this technology. At the same time, you could say the commercial benefit for us is becoming part of a global standard means you need to be part of an ecosystem. You can't just have people using it for deliveries. They need to know they can use it every time they want to give a location, whether that's delivery, they've had an emergency, their car's broken down, all those sort of things. They want to meet a friend for coffee. So the emergency services is also part of creating that ecosystem where people are aware.
I think that last sentence is really critical and kind of really, really interesting because, you know, that is just normal, what you're saying. That's just kind of, but actually that way of thinking is not very normal for a lot of businesses. And it's really strategic, really, I think quite left field because there is a lot of, there'll be a lot of investment still required to deliver those services before you get a return of investment. Because sure, what fantastic branding, what fantastic advertising, but there's a lot of work that's got to go into that in the first place to be able to even begin to recruit that. So it's kind of it's a brave and modern thing. I think it's great to hear as well. And I know you guys,
long game.
Yeah, and I know you guys are so passionate about communities because it's like, you know, we just reached out to you and you popped off on a train from London, came down.
We have a thing that we talk about a lot in the office. We talk about sort of planting acorns, and at some point they'll grow into oaks. And you don't really know which of those acorns is going to grow. But there was a great example. I think we were in a very, very small travel guide in Ireland. I don't think somebody who was a fan of ours added 3 words address to this travel guide, and we never really thought much of it. Until we found ourselves in the boardroom of a big car company, lots of important people in the room, a few people saying, "Oh, is this a thing? Is this going to take on?" And then one of the car company's head people sort of pulled this colourful little Irish travel guide out of his bag and said, "No, it is a thing, guys. Look what I saw in Ireland. I was in Ireland last week," or whatever it was, and that tiny acorn that had been planted somewhere just happened to be seen by the right person to change the moment in the boardroom, that goes on to lead to big things. So I think you've got to kind of put yourself everywhere as much as possible and trust that the right people see you, because the CEOs of delivery companies, of car companies, they're real people as well. They have to call 999, they have to get deliveries, they have to meet friends. So if they find uses for us outside of their business, then, it sort of trickle in and we get more interest from the businesses that we want to get on board as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. And I think, for me, I would love to see the technology put into the fast food apps, the Deliveroo's and Uber Eats. I think, for me, I think for a lot of people, those apps have been used much more over the pandemic, with people wanting to eat restaurant quality food at home because they don't want to cook and they can't go out. And I think as the warmer weather's approaching and we're still kind of not really allowed to freely do all the things we want to do, I would love to be able to, be in a park and get something delivered to a certain location in a park, built in natively into the app. I think these fast food app companies should really sort of embrace the idea of there being a missing link, and that missing link right now is the ability to get something delivered in an open space as opposed to their own homes.
Absolutely,
I would love to see that rolled out. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, we've done that last summer. We had a kind of weekend one-off test with Honest Burgers. Then they were delivering onto Clapham Common. So you could sit on Clapham Common, look up your 3 words address. You could put 3 words into the kind of online chat bot, and then a guy would stroll up to you with a burger and walk right up to the square.
That is interesting. And I don't reckon we're not far away. I mean, the technology already exists. I think, and I don't know the details, but it just needs company A to talk to you guys and make it happen. More integrated into the app, but definitely.
Absolutely, and I'd say a shout out to your listeners. Like if you have companies you'd like to be able to do that with, tweet at them. Go on their emails, send them a product suggestion, because when customers ask for it, then people approach us and say, I want your technology. And that just makes it all so much easier to have that buy-in from the beginning, because it's what customers want in the end that helps these people make these decisions, and a business case for bringing what 3 words into their
I will do that.
apps.
I will give them a tweet and get Deliveroo and Uber Eats to get on board, because it's a bit of a guilty pleasure, but on a Friday morning, I've got into a habit the last few Fridays of getting a Costa delivered to my house. A Costa coffee.
No way.
Costa
they
coffee.
Deliver.
Yeah, they deliver now.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, well, not did I until recently. Even though for Christmas my wife bought me a very fancy posh coffee machine, there's just still something about a Costa coffee, or other brands do exist. But and I've been getting a Friday morning coffee delivered to my desk, and I'm just like, in the summer when I'm allowed to, walk the dogs up on the hills or in a park, I would love to have the same experience, get someone to deliver me a coffee while I'm walking my dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, food and drink
that's what the future looks like.
Yeah, all that stuff is so luxurious. But also, I'm thinking of times when we've been out on a film shoot somewhere. So, if people are shooting a film or a TV series, and someone realizes we need an extra camera battery, or we need, a part for a drone or something. And that's where you can imagine, like, calling out this kind of rapid delivery services, I think, is becoming more and more expected in a way. And you want people to be able to find these locations.
I think you guys are holding on to one of the big missing links.
Wow.
If I was the CEO of what 3 words, I think the future could be really bright for you guys. You potentially are holding the missing piece of the puzzle.
The last year we've seen the on-demand service just explode, right? Yeah. And that's I'm really excited about just thinking.
So actually,
Maddie, you talk.
I was just going to say. Go on, Jeremy. You finish what you were saying.
I was going to say you were talking about filming and everything, but I'm sure last time when we spoke, and we accidentally, Shane and I ruined it. You were telling us about doing an advert in lockdown.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that was a full year since full year from now. Actually, that was our first UK TV ad, and that was. It was an emergency services story. So it was about a guy called Jason who had been kayaking up kind of on the Cairngorms, on one of the locks there. And basically he'd sort of got caught up in bad weather, got separated from the group, and ended up having to get onto the shore for safety. But with the last sort of few bars of battery in his phone, he managed to call 999 and give them the what 3 words address for where he was, because he had the app on his phone already. And they sent mountain rescue helicopter, and they got him back safely, which was an amazing story. And we knew that was just something that would really help people understand the power of the technology. So our plan was to go up to Scotland, to stay in this lovely lodge that was all prepared, and have this time up at the lock to film on location. But COVID sort of popped up just at that moment. And we were sort of hovering to book our train tickets, thinking, will we be able to go? And then the answer was no. So we very quickly had to work out how we're going to shoot a TV quality ad remotely. It involved us basically posting this guy Jason a box of camera equipment, much like you guys have done for me, talking him through setting it all up. And then he filmed himself. He filmed his own TV ad in his garage, with his kayaks behind him. And he had us on Zoom, just as I'm talking to you, giving him some directions and pointers. But it was our first remote recording experience, really. And to do it for TV quality was quite nerve-wracking, but it came out so well. And he just came across very natural. It's nice that it was a real story. He didn't have to act. And it worked really well for us, actually.
Yeah, being authentic is definitely going to be the right way.
And what it does, it just means that, before COVID, if you had a team of people and you all said, right, okay, we're actually, for whatever reason, we can't all get together, and we're going to shoot this, remotely, there'd be so much pushback. People would say it's technically not feasible, it's a waste of time, waste of effort, the quality would be terrible. But it's amazing that when you're forced to do these things, that actually things can work out quite well and be okay. Might not be perfect, but it's good enough, right?
I think it's been quite refreshing in a sense. Like, I've seen lots of ads on TV, even for very normal kind of like supermarket brands and things like that, where they've very obviously been shot in real people's homes, not in studios, and on, slightly dodgy cameras at times. But I think the audience is very forgiving, actually. And in a lot of cases, the reality of it just adds something. Not everything has to be polished and perfect. And especially with the rise of things like TikTok, people are much more used to rapidly created content that is a little bit scrappy but is entertaining. So I think that's something that's going to stay, to be honest.
It's quite interesting when you're watching anything on TV, whether it's an advert or a movie or whatever, when you're watching it now and people aren't in masks, living in some sort of lockdown situation, you immediately think, well, that's old. So it dates it if it hasn't got that authenticity.
So Maddie, is that your role in the organisation? Is something we didn't touch on at the beginning? Is kind of what is it that you do, and what's your background?
Yeah, my role, my title at What Three Words is creative lead. So I'm part of our marketing team. Our marketing team's about 35 people.
Oh, wow.
So we've basically got our own studio within the marketing department. So we've got our own video editors, we've got a producer, we've got writers, we've got designers, and we do basically all of our work in-house. So we've got a full team of makers who just make things a lot faster than I think we could do if we tried to outsource a lot of stuff. And then my role is to sort of dip a bit into everything. I'm from a copywriting background, so I do head up the tone of voice, and I try and sort of educate the rest of the company to be able to write in our brand style, because I don't want to hold the keys to all of the writing that goes on at What Three Words. We do way too much of that. So I kind of do little sessions, and I've got a guide that helps anybody to write for our company and stay on brand and kind of say the right things. So the writing's one part of it. And then I also do a lot of script writing, but also working with the editors to shape that script into a film. And then occasionally the odd bit of directing and standing around on sets when we do TV work. So it's pretty varied. And there's also kind of like the digital website build side of things, which I get involved in as well. Not from a technical point of view, but from an information design point of view.
I'm exhausted just listening to that.
It's a lot of stuff.
No, it sounds great, really interesting. And actually, I would love to kind of, pick on one of the points you mentioned about style guides and design systems and how, because that's something that's very much in kind of my world, and I'm usually part of the process that helps companies kind of define them and keep to them, and just wanted to understand your perspective of what it's been like having to implement one in a startup that's been growing as fast as it has.
Yeah, I think we put something in place very early around design guidelines and tone of voice. So some basic things for us graphically are things like our logo, about how we represent What Three Words addresses. So making sure that if we visualize a What Three Words address, it's kind of attached to a square. The square is the right size. The square is on the ground. These basic things that connect the design to the essential elements of how our technology works. And then with our tone of voice, we sort of set some guidelines. We normally revise them about every 2 years, because we find that the company changes so much in that time. We keep a lot of it on a program called Notion, which is kind of like a Wikipedia. Anybody can jump in and edit it. It's really simple, and it's really searchable as well. So anything I want people to know, I bung it in Notion, and it means that if somebody thinks, oh, I don't know what kind of apostrophe we use or where at What Three Words, they can type apostrophe into the search, and they'll find my little bit about what they're supposed to be doing with apostrophes. So you can really keep a huge amount of information there, and I don't have to go to a web designer to update anything. I can just go into Notion and do it myself. So that's been a really useful tool for us.
I'm a massive advocate for Notion. I've been a Notion user for a couple of years now. I've been trying to get Jeremy to use it for Digital Somerset, and we do use it for Digital Somerset, but I think I'm the only one that actually logs in and uses it. But no, Notion is a great platform, and you're right, it's a great way to coordinate some of these rules and guidelines that can help really evolve a team. It's really cool. And out of interest, is there any other tools that you use within the team, within the company?
Yeah, lots of good ones. I mean, I've recently been sort of making my first steps in Figma, which obviously is a lot more of a product design tool, but I've found that increasingly as we start building, say, email templates and website layouts, as a writer, it doesn't make sense for me to write in Google Docs and transfer across. I'd rather write directly into the Figma, and then I can see how long things are and how the information kind of all sits next to each other. And it's just a faster process. I can really visualize how it's going to look in the end. So I'm sort of getting used to that. And then for design, we use one called Go Visually, where the designers can, it's just a useful feedback platform. It's kind of like the designers can upload a PDF of whatever they're working on. And it's very easy for people around the company to jump into that and to drop dots or squares or anything else on with little comments. So it's just an easy way of like visually giving feedback. It's got a nice version feature, so you can look back at all the previous versions that you've had, see if you get to a certain point and go, oh, I think I liked how we had it 2 versions ago. It's not lost, it's all still sitting in there. So that's,
I'll have to go check that out. I've not come across
it's a great one actually for design. And similarly we use Frame for video.
Oh, frame.io, yeah.
Frame.io, exactly. So we use that. That's just a great one for pinging out a link. People can go in and they can drop a comment on a very specific part of the video. And you can even get these sort of like doodling tools. So you can draw a circle around a bit and go, make this lighter or make this darker. It's very interactive.
We use Frame to edit this podcast.
And, cool.
And I'm pretty sure that Glenn, our editor, will be circling all the areas on my camera feed that's too dark and absolutely blown out and need to be brighter. Probably be telling me off. There's some really useful tools out there that can really make life a bit easier. And
absolutely, yeah, it's finding the right combination for your team, I think, and then also finding ways that I think as we've moved into Figma, it's really helped us communicate with our product team. For example, when at one point they were using Figma and we were using InDesign or whatever, and you're just speaking slightly different languages, and as you start to find products that help different teams work together, that's when you will start kind of speaking the same language, and it just gets so much easier.
Yeah, I love it. I think it can uncover it, when you do get that right combo of tools and services. I think it can actually unlock creativity, I think. I've always thought that creativity is a process actually, and
absolutely,
and for that process to be robust and scalable, there need to be certain things in place, and some of those things are tools. Not the be all and end all, which people constantly remind me of, because I am a bit of a tool nut, and I do like to.
Hadn't guessed.
I do like to kind of experiment and try different things, but actually, I've always found it quite an integral part to my creative process. And for me, creativity isn't just something that happens in my head. For me, creativity is a very methodical process. So that's how I get it done. So really interesting to know about what happens inside these fancy London startups. And
just a nice point to make, if people are interested in, if people are interested in the technology and want to spread the word, then what I'd recommend they do is try to use What 3 Words as much as possible. Because sometimes I know at the beginning, if you're sort of an early adopter of a technology, it feels like every time you use it, you have to explain it to somebody else. That can put you off from doing it. But I think our awareness in the UK is increasing really quickly. So more and more, I've said to an Airbnb host, oh, can I have the What 3 Words address for that? Waiting for them to go, what? And actually they've gone, oh yeah, here you go. Wow. And those moments are starting to happen more and more, especially with, emergency services, Airbnb hosts. I've had people where I've bought something off Facebook Marketplace and I've had to go to their house and I've said, oh, do you know your What 3 Words address by any chance? And they've gone, oh yeah, brilliant, I do. So awesome. Ask, what we say is every time you're going somewhere where you need to get an address, always ask for one. And then if somebody needs to come and find you, always give one for where you are. So just always ask, always give, make it part of your routine. And sort of the more people do that, the more quickly it's going to be adopted across the country.
And I think that's part of the process, right? And I was going to ask you actually kind of, what's the organization's kind of, next big milestone, or what is it that you're all working towards, and I suppose one of those things would be just to try and ingrain What 3 Words into our culture, that it actually, and I guess that is kind of a key thing, right? If you can get the What 3 Words concept into our daily routine and into our culture, and it becomes just part of the fabric of our sort of society, then you know, because it is that kind of pattern, isn't it? You'll use it when your friend's using it, and then they'll start using it when they're receiving it, and etc. And then it just kind of cascades. And so a brand and marketing and creative, I guess, is a big part of the challenge, right? So you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's just, we're just telling people about it. I mean, the technology is there, it's in the app, it's free to use, and it's so convenient. You know, our app has voice input, so you don't have to type these 3 words. You can just press a button, you know, and say you say the 3-word address and select the option, and you're there. So if you're busy and you don't have your hands free, you can do it with voice. You can also scan the addresses, so it's got OCR scanning in it. So if you open a guidebook, we're in, for example, the Lonely Planet Mongolia has a what 3 words address for everywhere you could want to find in there. So you can get your phone, you can scan those 3 words, and that loads up the locations. There's lots of like good technology in the app. You know, it's really robust, it's really reliable as well.
I'm waiting for someone in the sort of photography community to come up with a book of all the best photography hotspots in the UK and have the direct what 3-word locations, so I could drive specifically to an amazing sort of vocal point in a landscape and take the picture and not have to spend the 3 days researching where to take the picture and just rock up and take the picture. I guess it's kind of lazy of me, but I would love someone to develop that book or that app and use your technology to sort of collaborate where all the good photography hotspots are. So maybe there's another idea there. Anyone listening want to build that app, let me know, because I'd love to be involved in that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got quite a lot of photographers using us, and in our online community, there's a lot of photographers who are sharing work with the what 3 words address, because it's really nice. You know, you always see a photo and you go, I wonder where that was taken, or which country it was taken in. And now you can put in those 3 words and you can see exactly where that photographer was standing, which is really cool. And we have a plugin for Adobe Lightroom as well, where you can add the what 3 words address into the metadata of the picture, so you can, you know, use it to sort of categorize and sort your pictures, so that if you bring something up from years and years ago and you can't remember exactly where you were, you've got that information stored inside the photograph.
I did not know that. I do like using Lightroom, and I'll be checking that out, because I didn't realize you could do that. That's really interesting. Yeah, because I mean, GPS call. I mean, because with Lightroom you do get it, well, assuming your camera had it enabled at the point you took the picture, you'll get the GPS coordinates of where the picture was taken. But if you didn't have it enabled in camera, you know, to be able to, I guess, some way retrospectively add the what 3 words address later on, that could be really interesting. And I'd love to see that encoded into the metadata. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. Well, like you said, you've got the GPS coordinates there, but then you rather than having to type them into what 3 words and get words out, you can get the what 3 words straight away. And save it there, so it's handy. And we've actually got a photo mode in our app as well, so you can snap a quick picture on your phone, you can put on a 3-word address label, you can change the colors and stuff, and then you can just post that straight away to Instagram or Facebook. So it's nice, and people have been using that kind of in a fun way to go like, look where I am, isn't this cool? But we've actually seen like really practical uses where people are taking a photo of a pile of fly tipping, you know, an old mattress by the side of the road, and they just tweet it straight to the council with the what 3 words address on the photograph, and go, there it is, you know, you can go pick it up now. So there's definitely been a bit of kind of community do-gooding behind that, where you can.
There's so many applications for this technology. It's I guess one of the challenges is where you aim, right, where you focus, because when there are so many opportunities, it can be hard to sort of double down on and sort of prioritize, you know, which ones you want to go for.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big part of our decision making, is kind of what are the right things to do as a company, and what are the things that are going to move the needle, you know, because you can sometimes get a bit too focused in one area that's not going to make the difference for you on the bigger scale. So we try and keep everything spinning, you know, in a way, so all these things come together, but we always have a few big priorities as well. And then we have a lot of conversations about what we should be focusing on, and we're not precious about dropping one thing and switching to another thing if the moment's right. You know, I think that's an important lesson. Even if you spent, you know, a year working on a certain industry, if it's not delivering and if you're not making an impact, sometimes it's better to switch to somewhere else.
I think that's probably fair with any any business, any product, whether it's technology or not, it's kind of, it's having a go and understanding actually if it hasn't worked, it's not producing the results, to step away and learn. So it's very good advice.
Yeah,
cool. I felt like I needed to bring it back to a slightly more business level, bring it up a little bit, because I felt like you two were geeking out there for a bit, and I'm like, eyes are glazing over, and I was just like, whoa.
I love geeking out. So much fun. I think for me, because I run a small sort of micro business, and obviously, as a product designer and someone who builds digital products, what 3 words is it's very similar in terms of, the output is often quite similar to the things I get involved in. But understanding how the mechanics work inside a fairly large startup now, for me, that's kind of really interesting, because that's quite away from my day to day, where I just, I'm a team of 3. So, it gets a bit lonely. But it's interesting to hear about how, some of the methodologies are the same and some of the tools are the same. It's just you guys have put in the effort to build the infrastructure so it can scale. And that's stuff I find really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've learned so much since being in a startup environment. I was in kind of ad agency world before this, and it's very different how you act and how you collaborate. I'd say we have a very open environment, and we force ourselves in a way to be a bit more open than we're even comfortable with. So when we're working on a script, I'll make that document open so that anyone from like the CEO to the head of marketing can sort of stick his head into that script. I'm live writing, he can see what's going on. And we try and avoid that moment where someone's worked on something for so long and then they kind of go surprise and present it back, because that's when it could be perfect, but it also often isn't, and we've spent time perfecting something that actually might have had the strategy wrong at the beginning. So being very open about each stage of scripting and storyboarding with both our CEO, people who run our paid media, people who build our product, means that everyone's kept in the loop and nobody gets that surprise moment of like, oh, that's not quite what I expected.
Oh, that's a big thing, and that's something that we champion or try to champion with our clients all the time. A lot of people still feel like there has to be this kind of linear process of, I go away and do something for 3 days, and then I announce it to the stakeholders or to the people in the organization, and then they have their subjective opinions and all that kind of stuff. And actually, if you build a process where they're involved at the very beginning, and that they can be in as much or as little as they need to be, then they should never, if you do it right, there should never be a big ta-da moment, should there? It should all be just a gradual journey that you get to this point together.
What's interesting though about that, because there's probably I very much relate to what you guys are saying in the opposite way. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm not coming from a kind of creative business where maybe all these tools are kind of common actually for sharing, because actually that's the best way of getting best copyright, etc. Mm-hmm. We're coming from a different perspective where other people are doing lots of other things that aren't involved in that, and it's interesting because I can see the advantages, but I can see also from a business that's not related to that at all, kind of, would people log in the first place? Do they understand the ability to be able to log into Figma or any of these other tools that you've said? The one that you said I never use, right? I don't use it because, I don't have the time. My Fran uses it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does.
Yeah. So there is that challenge as well, and it is about. I think it's more than just an individual mindset. It's kind of a whole corporate mindset.
Yeah.
So it's a good challenge, really good challenge.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of organizations are going through those challenges, or recognizing that it isn't as easy as how some people describe it, and that if you're, some businesses are going to adopt it very much, easier than others. Like, what 3 words, relatively young tech startup. I mean, if those guys can't get it right, then the larger institutions or the larger or more traditional kind of style of businesses won't have a chance, right? So, it's about it. And I think company culture plays a big part of this. And like Maddie, you described how your role in the organization, or part of it, is the fact that you have to communicate and educate about the culture and about how to write and to reference the tools and to build out the knowledge bases and to build out the wikis and to constantly remind people and educate people on what the process is. That if you don't have that champion within the organization, it's very unlikely to get off the ground.
I think you've said what I was trying to say, but far more eloquently. It's a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it can sometimes feel a bit like doing your housekeeping, you know, getting all your internal stuff in order, and you think, oh, you know, we could be out there doing deals, or we could be building a new feature in our app, but actually just getting that groundwork that holds your company together is so important. And we found, especially, you know, when we're hiring for quite a few new positions at the moment as we're expanding a bit, and being able to very clearly tell people what we're about and what it's like to work here is really important. And that all comes from our, you know, our company values and our principles and the things that we've done the time thinking, like, who are we and what do we believe in, and how do we work as well, how do we interact with each other, and just setting those kind of principles up is definitely worth the time. It's not always super exciting, and it involves you know, lots of different opinions and trying to narrow down all these thoughts into a nice concise summary, but it's definitely worth it. And I think coming back to your point, Jeremy, about you know, feeling like the tools, maybe something like Figma isn't accessible to you, I think it's on the side of the creatives to put the information into something that works outside of that sphere. So even if that's me taking my Figma, doing a screenshot of it and whacking you over a JPEG and going, this is sort of what I've got in mind, you know, you don't have to necessarily give loads of feedback at that point. But I think for us, it's about reassuring people, like, the work's being done, you know, vaguely what it might look like at the end. But when we work with clients, I think it's about getting them used to, they're not going to see like a polished 20-page deck. They might get, you know, a video that hasn't been, you know, hasn't had the graphics added yet. So we might say, do you like the shots? Do you like the music? But we'll do the graphics afterwards. And it's just a way of being more collaborative rather than getting to the end of a process and finding that somebody doesn't like something we could have changed at the beginning.
It's a challenge, and it's really interesting. It just makes me, one of the things that I've been involved in recently that's definitely out of my comfort zone, which has been, I guess I've had a role of a kind of producer on a client video that we've created. Okay. So one of our larger clients, we built some digital tools for them, and they asked us, well, while you're building the tools, could you also do a promotional video for us? And so I recruited on our side some resources, you know, videographers and audio people and creative people and actors, and actually facilitating a creative process for video. I thought doing it for the web and product design was difficult, but video is incredibly challenging because the feedback is incredibly subjective, and it's been a massive learning curve of how to try and, you know, contain that and work with that. So that process has been a real challenge. Very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many variables in a moving picture, you know, that people can have an opinion on. So we just overshare, you know, we overshare everything. Even if it's the casting for the extras in the background, we'll throw that around the channel with everybody on it. We don't wait for feedback. You know, I don't expect our CEO to necessarily feedback on the extras in the background, but the fact that he sees it, maybe he gives it a little thumbs up emoji, just shows that he's involved in the process. And then the more that you share, I think the more trust that you build, you know, because they can see that the right decisions are being made as they go along, and actually they don't feel like they need to be involved that often, but anytime they do want to see what's going on, they can jump into Slack and see where we're at.
I love that. Well, I think we could end up chatting about stuff like this all day, especially I love process is just a topic of conversation that I really do enjoy, but I think we probably need to round things off now, and so for those that want to get in touch and you know, and is there a way to contact you if they wanted to ask you any sort of questions specifically, or? Yeah,
absolutely. I'm on an email. It's just maddie@what3words.com, and that's MADDIE. Feel free to shoot stuff over. And we actually have, for What 3 Words, we have an online community that we recently relaunched, and that's at w3w.community. So we've just recently built out that space as an online forum, so people can post questions, they can see our latest news, they can get involved, swap ideas and collaborate. And that's really about, for us, getting the people who love What Three Words and want to help it spread, and kind of putting them all in one place and going, come on guys, talk to each other and share ideas. And that's really fun. So if anyone's interested in joining that, it's just w3w.community, and it'd be great to see some more people in there from Somerset.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to link that below.
Definitely.
And also, you know, this show and all the others will be on our website at digitalsomerset.com. And it'd be great to kind of you know, help develop that community and make sure the Southwest and Somerset in particular are represented.
Absolutely.
And, excellent. Well, thank you ever so much for your time, Maddie. Wish you the best of luck with everything and with the company. And I'm sure we'll hear from you soon.
Hopefully, we should be on TV again in a few months. So keep an eye on Channel 4.
It's been really wonderful speaking to you again, Maddie. I really enjoyed it, actually. And actually, I felt like I learned a little bit. I was quiet and listening to you guys. And actually, it's probably stuff that Shane's been saying all the time, but actually hearing it a second time round with someone else.
You'll listen to Maddie. You won't listen to me.
I'm thinking I'll probably listen to Maddie. But it's been really interesting. And you know, hopefully you'll come back at another time when we're out of a pandemic and you know, we moved on with everything, and be good to have
absolutely you. There's always new stuff to talk about with our company. Things change very quickly, which is what makes it fun, but there's always new news. So I'd love to talk to you guys again at some point.
Brilliant.
Lovely stuff.
Thanks ever so much, Maddie, and we will speak to you soon. Bye for now.
Thanks.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.